it's been a history of bubbles. I mean, I never understood why tulips were worth what they were back in, Netherlands.
But for you in particular, and you've had many years to watch our economy, and to economists in general, sharply rising prices are a signal that something is peculiarly going on in the economy.
Well,
you saw the prices rising very quickly, but you still didn't think that this was something that could eventually collapse.
I didn't think it would pop like it did, no. Interestingly enough, in 2005 and 6, and I believe I've got the time period right, I get offered businesses for sale periodically. A significant percentage of the publicly traded home builders, one way or another, let it be known that they would like to sell out to Berkshire Hathaway. And looking back, I should have figured out what I didn't figure out.
Were they asking more than once?
It's interesting. I never heard from them. In many decades in business, and all of a sudden, 3 or 4 of them showed up on the doorstep.
I had an interesting experience. As I say, I interpreted that I was fired by Tim Geithner for my views, but I really don't know that happened. I was on the academic advisory panel for the New York Fed for 14 years, and then we got a new president, Tim Geithner, in 2004, and then I went to one meeting and I talked about bubbles. I was probably the only one, and my concern about the bubble. And then a few days later, I get this polite phone call from a young lady who said, Secretary Geithner is rotating the panel and wants to bring in new blood, and you're no longer needed. So was that because, I'll tell you, I felt very uncomfortable. You know what it is about talking about bubbles and confidence? It's flaky. That's exactly the word. Do you know what that means in academia? It means like, here's some guy who trails off and he's not basing it on scientific methods.
And if you believe house prices are going to go up next year, you're going to stretch to buy one this year. And the world enabled people to stretch. After a while, rising prices became their own rationale. And people decided if buying one house was a good idea, buying 3 houses was a good idea. If buying a house you can afford is a good idea, buying a house you can't afford is a good idea because it's going to go up in price. And people who lent money said it doesn't really make any difference whether the guy's lying about his income because if the house goes up in price, we'll get our money back anyway. So rising prices are a narcotic that affect the reasoning power of up and down the line. People even that should have had the experience. Isaac Newton, participated in the South Sea bubble originally, got out, and then he couldn't stand prices going up any longer, so he went back in and got cleaned. And this is a fellow that generally was regarded as being pretty bright.